Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here coming at you from the Knife Center. Now the world certainly has changed in the last month, but fortunately that hasn't yet stopped the train of new knives here at the Knife Center. So here are some of my favorite picks for the best new knives to hit our shelves in March 2020. Let's check them out. So the first knife I want to show you is the CJRB small FELDSPAR, which I think is the best bargain of the month, hands down. Now CJRB has always been a bargain ever since their first models were introduced, but this latest and one of their smallest deserves special attention. Like I said, the small FELDSPAR. At just $35 for a budget knife with a blade under 3 inches, this is going to be a very hard product to beat. The blade is D2 tool steel and it's got my preferred stone-washed finish on it. It's a very usable drop point shape. It's flat ground and we've got a continuous curve to the edge that encourages easy slicing. This is a thumb stud opening knife and we've got ceramic ball bearings in the pivots. It makes it very easy to open, and then when closed up, it's nice and clean when it's folded and stuck in your pocket because you've got no flipper tab. Now the G10 handle on this knife is available in a few different colors and it's got a nice neutral shape. Should be usable and comfortable for hands both large and small. Also, thanks to the contoured dimensions of those scales rather than having flat slabs, it helps it to feel even better and more comfortable when you're gripping. It's also got an inset liner lock, which is a nice feature typically reserved for knives a bit more expensive. You don't usually see it quite as much on budget-oriented knives like this. It even has a reversible deep carry pocket clip to keep the knife out of the way and under the radar until you need it. The CJRB small FELDSPAR is the right size, it's got the right features and the right price to make it worthy of carrying just about anywhere that you could carry a knife. Now, like CJRB, Ontario is another brand that's known for their budget folders, their Rat series in particular. Now we've got a new folder this month, which is called the SHIKRA, coming in at about $45, and they've pushed the materials a little bit with this design. We've got an almost needle-like drop point shape to the blade, good for general work, but it's delicate enough for very precise work as well. It's actually not all that dissimilar from the blade on the FELDSPAR in a way, but we do have a little bit more length, about 3.2 inches. We've got hollow ground AUS 8 steel, which is easier to sharpen than the D2 on the CJRB, and of course it's more stainless as well. The blade has a black stone-washed finish, and that's going to help with the corrosion resistance even more, and it's also going to make it look very cool. We've got a ball bearing pivot with flipper opening. We're seeing this more and more from China at under the $50 price point, but it's still very nice to see. What we don't see much though at this price point, and what we do see here, is a titanium frame lock, and that's where they've pushed the envelope a little bit. That titanium is going to help keep the weight down versus the more commonly used steel at this price point. And it's got that same black stone wash and more premium details too, like a steel lock bar insert with an integrated over travel arrestor. Now the front handle scale is micarta, and it is contoured for comfort and then milled a little bit for grip, and it's left with a matte texture that isn't too slick overall. The Ontario Knife Company SHIKRA is a solid EDC, and while it is an imported knife, it is nice to see an American company playing in the same ball field as the budget Chinese companies with a knife that can certainly win on its merits. Now speaking of one of those budget Chinese brands, we've got a very cool new design. It's a larger knife from CIVIVI at the $55 price point. This is the ASTICUS. Now this is a bigger knife, but it's not a brute. This is going to be a laser slicer despite having nearly 4 inches of D2 blade. Now a ball bearing flipper is going to bring this blade to bear. It's hollow ground and they do a great job of getting the edge nice and thin. And that geometry is what's going to make this knife such a phenomenal cutter. I can see this thing blowing through stuff like cardboard with ease. And the handles are thinner, which is going to keep it easier to carry as well. We've got steel liners and a liner lock. With G10 onlays for a little bit of grip. There's a bunch of cool colors, including a jade natural G10, although I did happen to just pick the plain black one to show you today. And I like what they've done with the shape of it. It complements the shape of the frame really nicely and adds a little bit of dynamic flow to the overall profile. We've got a true deep carry pocket clip as well, and that is reversible to either side. The ASTICUS is flat enough, light enough, and it carries deep enough that it's very easy to carry a lot of knife with this design. Now the next is something that is just so daggone fun, the K-bar wrench knife. Now a lot of knife companies tend to take themselves very seriously, so it's good to see something a little more lighthearted, a knife that just makes you smile. However, despite being a bit of a novelty, this is still a very useful knife, and affordable too at about $40 right now. This is drop forged from 425 stainless steel. And because of that drop forge construction, each one is going to come with its own little imperfections, which makes your knife like none other out there. We've got a drop point blade. It's got sort of a shallow hollow grind. It's going to have no problem putting in the work that it's going to have you wanting to keep it on your tool belt. Now the handles may not be super conducive to something like a paracord wrap, but there is enough depth to the scooped out section with these raised letterings in there that it gives you enough traction and you can keep a pretty good grip on the knife. It even ought to work with a lot of different hand sizes, because this is another knife with a neutral handle shape. And even if your normal hands will just fit, when you're wearing heavier work gloves, that's definitely going to be appreciated. The K-bar wrench knife works, and it's just plain fun. And if you don't get it, then you just don't get it, and that's just going to leave more for the rest of us. Next is the new Becker BK18 Harpoon. Now, this is the first new non-limited edition Becker knife in quite some time, and yes, I do omit the BK62 Kephart when I'm making that determination. I think this knife combines the best of the discontinued BK15 and BK17 knives, and is going to be a good alternative to the BK16 in a knife this size. We've got a long sweeping edge with plenty of belly. That's going to be great for skinning and food prep, just like the 15 was. And we've got an inline point with an acute penetrating profile, something the 17 was very good at. It comes together in a great package that's going to be useful at camp or on the hunt, maybe even some tactical uses thanks to that harpoon profile. The steel is K-bar's proven 1095 CV, because it is K-bar making the Becker knives nowadays, and it comes with this tan coating to help keep the rust at bay. The flat grind comes about 2/3 of the way up the blade, leaving the full thickness of 5/32 of an inch for good lateral strength there near the spine. This knife comes with matching tan synthetic handles, bolt-on, which is typical of all the mid-size Becker knives. Now micarta is of course available separately if you prefer a more premium feel, but both are contoured the same way for a phenomenal and secure grip in the hand. It looks like another winner from K-bar and Ethan Becker, and it's typical Becker high value too, with American construction offering a lot for less than 90 bucks. Now this next might be my personal favorite for this month, the new composite bladed KERSHAW Dividend, coming in at about 83 bucks. Now yes, when I introduced this in our new items of the week video a couple weeks ago, I did have a brain fart and referred to this knife as the Link, so I'm sorry about that. But a rose by any other name would still smell as sweet, and this knife, no matter what you call it, is just plain cool. This knife uses KERSHAW's composite blade technology to meld a spine of N690 steel to a cutting edge of CPM D2 steel. And they fit together almost like a puzzle piece with a cool, almost shark tooth-like pattern with this particular knife. The way these two steels behave when they're darkened I think looks extra cool, and I love that they've used CPM D2 here. You're going to get phenomenal edge retention without it being typically as hard to sharpen as D2 has gotten a reputation for being. The aluminum handles here have gotten an upgrade too, with some geometric milling designed to break up the lines of the handle as well as add a little bit more grip in the process. The blade is still nice and thin, it's going to be a phenomenal cutter, and the frame is thin too for easy carrying. The SpeedSafe assisted opening makes it a fast flipper, and they've even thrown in a reversible deep carry pocket clip. These tweaks make this easily the best Dividend yet. Next, we've got a new premium knife with a very appealing price tag, the WE knife company KITEFIN, coming in less than 160 bucks. I think this is the perfect gentleman's knife. It is a titanium frame lock flipper with your choice of either titanium or carbon fiber on the front, marbled or shred in the case of this one I've got here. Now the carbon fiber version especially helps keep the weight way down. This is barely over 2 ounces, yet you get a lot of capability. The S35 VN blade is about 3¼ inches long. It's got a nice hollow grind with a thin edge, flips open easily, and it's ready for cutting very quickly. The fit and finish and the attention to detail is typical WE knife quality, which is to say meticulous, and even the pocket clip has seen some extra attention. It's almost completely deep carry, and it's flamed titanium on this one, and we've got some drilled and chamfered holes. Some clips feel like an afterthought, but this one feels integrated fully. The KITEFIN is one of those knives that you really have to hold to fully appreciate. It definitely stands out when you do, and you can tell that it's something special. As we get closer to the end, we've got a new Ray Laconico design from Artisan Cutlery. This is called the Centauri. This is a front flipper design, and it actually front flips very easily, even if you normally have problems with it. And it's got a broad 3½ inch modified Wharncliffe blade. You can get it with S35 VN steel or VG10 Damascus, and both of them sit at the $200 price point. I think the Centauri is a gentleman's knife that thinks it's a workhorse knife because it kind of is. It looks fantastic, but it still has a design that is not going to shrink before hard work, thanks to that capable and powerful blade shape. The looks are provided by carbon fiber on the front and titanium on the back, with fine diagonal milling and a nice milled pocket clip. And I'm seeing kind of a trend here with some of the items I've picked this month. The Centauri definitely carries nice and thin in the pocket, but it creates an outsized impression when you deploy it, that's for sure. Finally, we've got another small knife, but this one is a brute, and I mean that in a good way. This is the KIKU XR from SOG Knives, coming in at about 190 bucks. This knife features a roughly 3-inch blade made of CTS XHP steel, but despite the moderate size, it feels capable of very large tasks. That's thanks to the wide profile with this recurve shape, which increases the amount of edge a little bit, as well as that XHP steel that gives you a lot of cutting potential within this blade. And backing that up is a girthier handle, which gives you the confidence to push this blade hard. Now it's linen micarta with a matte texture and plenty of scalloping too for a nice amount of grip. Now you can certainly flipper this blade open because we do get a nice flipper tab here. You can also use the thumb cutout, but my favorite way is to use centrifugal force wrist action to flick the blade open and closed. All you have to do is pull back on the lock bar of the XR lock mechanism, which allows the blade to float freely and virtually free of resistance until you release that bar and it locks up nice and solid. I love SOG's take on this crossbar lock design, and I love that when you pull the lock bar back, it even rotates the blade open by just a few degrees, allowing it to flick open even easier. Now, the SOG KIKU XR is a design that's not to be trifled with. We've been looking forward to it a lot, and so are you, so we're very glad that it's finally here. So that's it for our list of best new knives to hit our shelves in March 2020, and I'd love to hear what you all think of this down in the comments. Make sure you let us know which one of these was your favorite, or if there was something else that you would rather have seen here in this list. In the meantime, if you want to get your hands on any of them, we'll leave links in the description to take you over to KnifeCenter.com. And in the meantime, I hope everyone out there is staying safe, sane, and sanitary. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center, signing off. See you next time.